Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well today. Today, I would like to talk about what's the next step. So you owned your mistakes, okay? We have owned our mistakes. We are going after shame. Now, next stage is to examine our beliefs, because there is a reason why we do what we do. So if there has been a pattern of mistakes, of follies, of failures, or simply put, of results that we don't like, so that means there are some patterns in our behavior, and that behavior, as you will come to understand, is driven by our subconscious, our unconscious 95% of the times. So what happens? You have certain beliefs. So we all have certain beliefs. So those beliefs help us form our own perception, what we see ourselves as, what is our self-image. And then out of that come behaviors. So if you see yourself in a certain light, as a certain person, that is because of certain belief systems that you hold. So it is kind of a vicious circle. So you have a self-image and your belief system is going to be coherent with that. Your actions are going to be coherent with that. So your beliefs, your behavior, and your own perception, your self-perception, your self-image. There are three facets that they are always in congruence with each other, irrespective of what others think or believe about us or of us. What happens is, when a child is growing up, if a child is labeled, if a child is categorized a certain way, then that child grows up into an adult who lives up to those labels. So and the strangest fact is, if you categorize somebody as good looking, if you categorize somebody as lazy, if you categorize somebody as hardworking, if you categorize somebody as brilliant, if you categorize somebody as stupid, especially in early childhood, they will grow up and live up to those words. Words are powerful. Words have meanings that especially children latch on to, and that is why it's particularly important that as grown-ups we take accountability for, of course, our life, of what we want to do. But when you want to completely do a rehaul, when you want to change the results that you're seeing in your life, now again, if you like what you see, then I don't see any reason for you to change absolutely anything. Because you have to like your life, you have to live your life, irrespective of what other people may want you to do or they may say you should do. But if you don't like the results that you see, if you don't like behaviors that are getting you those results, if you don't like what people talk about you also, because that comes later, then you need to do a rehaul. So the first part then, when it comes to it, is if I have failed, if I have done these things, if I don't like what I see in this life, the results that are in front of me, what have I done? So if I did this, so for example, let's take fitness or health. So if I find myself at a position where I am overweight, or I have disease, or I have lack of wellness, let's say, physical, mental, in whatever circumstance, mental is actually more deep-seated. Let's talk about physical, let's stick to physical. So if I have any kind of disease, I have issues, I have issues with my food, I don't have a healthy relationship with food, and so if you see this, then there has been a pattern in which I have behaved, because of which I am here. Those patterns have brought me here. Now, I may have, and generally there are pretty justifiable and very, very relevant reasons why we indulge in those behaviors. Because again, we are not going towards shame. Shame doesn't resolve. So I behave in this way because this is a coping mechanism. Coping mechanism starts when there is an overload of stress on your brain, and your prefrontal cortex, which is decision making, problem solving, and clear thinking, is overwhelmed, or for some reason the circuitry is not working. It could be trauma, it could be abuse, it's not working. Then your primitive, your limbic brain takes over, where the goal is just survival. And to survive, to keep you alive, these coping mechanisms come up. So if you see, coping mechanisms are actually protective. When we were vulnerable, when there was nobody to protect us, then we became our own protectors. We found ways. So imagine children or people who are vulnerable or whoever it is. So imagine how much of energy and how brilliant this system is, that just to keep us alive, to help us survive, it comes up with coping mechanisms. Now, maybe they don't serve us anymore. But we have to start from the place that coping mechanisms are actually protective mechanisms. They are protection, to protect us from abuse, to help us survive, to help our mind, our brain survive. Because often if there's an overload of abuse, it's an overload of information that is dark and that is depressive, the mind will not survive. And our first goal is to survive. So we come up with these, our own psyche comes up with these protective mechanisms. So now these protective mechanisms, often we carry them into our adulthood, and they don't serve us because they keep us from reaching further. So it's like having something that has outlived its utility. So instead of looking at it with shame, instead of looking at it with disgust and disdain and contempt, like how people look at it, which does not help resolve. I'm sure you know that because I have experienced it myself, because I've done it, it doesn't work. We will go to looking at it with compassion and curiosity. So if I tend to overeat all the time, then how is it protecting? How has it protected me in the past? Against abuse, against trauma, against probably bullying. How has it protected me? And you have to show a lot of compassion for someone who had nobody to protect and they had to end up relying on themselves. Can you imagine how strong and how resilient they have to be? Sadly, it was born out of trauma, and sadly it takes a lot. Like it takes a lot out of people when they go into survival mode. But we made it. So now it's time to rehaul our life, and we need to make a change, and we need to go further, and we need to let go of everything that's not serving us. So we need to see, okay, this is my behavior pattern. This is what I've been doing. And then it comes why. Why? What do I believe about myself that's leading me to do this? What do I think about myself that's leading me to indulge in this? And that is where you'll start finding answers, but it's going to be painful. It is difficult, and it is often pretty lonely, because the difficulties, the problems, the pain, the whatever it is that you face, no matter how much someone loves us, they can only help us from the outside. I mean, they can do everything, but if we don't do the work, if we don't start looking at ourselves, if we don't start engaging in this dialogue with our own self, then there is nobody who can help us. It doesn't matter how great a partner they are. It doesn't matter how great a therapist they are. It doesn't matter how great a counselor they are. You could have all the right people around you, but if you don't kind of become your own friend, if you don't engage in this dialogue with yourself, then there is no way this is going to work. Because for this to work, we have to work. So for us to change, we need to change our belief system, because our beliefs make us. So what you believe about yourself is going to make your self-image. So this is what I believe, and this is the kind of person I see myself as. So my habits are going to be in congruence with that. My habits are going to align with my beliefs and my image of my own self. That is why it's important that the moment you realize that you no longer are going to be this person and you want to change, you want to become someone different, even if you don't use the word better, you want to change your identity, you want to become someone different, then you need to examine why you do what you do. So you can change. So you can understand, you can accept, and then you can change. So first, examine your beliefs. Examine why you believe this about yourself. Examine why you see the world through this lens. Examine why you see yourself through this lens. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that you found this even remotely useful or entertaining or engaging, or even if it just prompted you to think. That's great. And I'm grateful, I'm glad that you're here. If you found this useful, then do feel free to check out my other videos. And whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope and I pray that whatever it is that you've been through, that you're going through, may you find the light that is within you. May you find resolution. May you find healing. Thank you.